Alright, so today we're going to talk about the elements of having a really strong and in-depth social media strategy. And if you haven't watched any of our videos on creating a clear goal, knowing your buyer persona, knowing what platforms you need to be on, I suggest you guys watch that first, then come. Alright, so when it comes to performing at a high level, whether you're a businessman, athlete, or anyone or anything who's trying to execute something well, you have to have a plan of attack. My favorite thing is basketball. Most of these teams, before any game, albeit there are moments where they do have to freestyle it, but before they come into it, they study their opponents, they study their weaknesses so they can exploit it. They put a plan together that they can execute together so that way they can get the victory at the end of the game. So for you, when it comes to social media, doing a lot of the planning up front will help alleviate a lot of the thinking power that you have so you can focus all that effort, all that willpower and energy to just executing. So like I said, if you watched any of the previous videos, at this point you should have a good understanding and good grasp of all these different factors that you have to take into account when it comes to executing on social media. Alright, so I actually created a social media strategy template that my social media managers use, so that way everyone can just duplicate it. It just makes the job easier and everyone just gets focused into just filling in the blanks and then executing on the plan. Okay, if you guys want to get your hands on that, make sure you watch the whole video so you can so you can find out how to get your hands on it. So the first thing is knowing your objectives. What is it that you want to achieve at the end of it? Or if it's not for you, what is it that your client wants to achieve? Because getting clear with the goal that you want to make happen is going to help dictate the actions that you do on social media, because those who are just focusing on sales might want to focus more on advertising versus someone who's just trying to build their profile for the first time. So get clear on that. So the next tip is know your audience. I think one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people do is that they create a product and they throw it out into the world and they find out that the market really doesn't give a shit for it. I think before you even start posting is know exactly who you're trying to talk to, who you're trying to sell to. Figure out what their pain points are, where do they hang out online and offline, what are their interests, who do they look up to. This is stuff that is really more hand to hand. You actually participate in like Reddit forums or engage in conversations on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or I think this type of information can even be better collected through a survey. The better you know your customer, the better you know your audience, the better you can create your messaging so that way they really relate to you. Alright, so along with doing surveys, make sure you do keyword research as well. It's going to be insanely important to know the exact terms and phrases that your ideal audience is looking for. Say, for me, one of the terms I'm ranking for is how to break dance for beginners. Super important. When you look that up, I'm on the first page, my course is on the first page, and I think one of my videos is on the first page. So it makes sense to, again, this goes back into knowing your audience, helping refine that buyer persona, but also these keywords are going to help you in terms of ranking, in terms of creating your copy for your social media and your YouTube. Alright, so the next thing is pick the right social media platforms. I know at the time of this recording, Instagram is insanely popular. But guess what? At one point, MySpace was insanely popular. Vine was pretty popular, and look what happened to them. What I mean by picking the right platforms is, if you're a B2B and you work with companies or heads of startups or whatever, okay, it might make more sense to be on LinkedIn instead of trying to show off the product on Instagram. Okay, it's really figuring out, the whole classic 80-20. Figure out where your audience is, and where you can get the most interaction and get the most out of it. For example, if you're going to be focusing on LinkedIn and that's where your audience is because you're a B2B, okay, focus 80% on that and 20% on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and everything else. While it does make sense to focus on where your primary audience is, like I said earlier, people were famous on MySpace before. Social media platforms can crash eventually, and I know it will eventually go away. Diversify yourself in different places, so just in case one platform crashes, you can go on the other places. So it's super important for you to know exactly where your audience is. Don't just pick the platform because it's cool. Pick the platform because that's where your audience is. All right, so the next step is review the data. So this is going to clue you in on what type of content your audience likes. We believe in the 70-30 rule. 70% of the content you share on any of your online platforms should be content that works. 30% should be stuff that's experimental, something that you want to try out that hasn't been done before. So reviewing the data is going to give you a clue on where to start off with your content creation moving forward. Those of you who are first starting off, post all the types of content you want, and be specific on what types of content you want that's in relation to your goal and towards what your audience is looking for. Okay, and then you post as much as you can in relation to that. So for example, you're a personal trainer, share food recipes, show workouts, show testimonials, so show all these variety of content, and within 30 to 90 days, and then review the data, see the pattern of what's working, use the 70-30 rule, 70% of what's working, and then use the other 30% to experiment and try to take that 30% and upgrade it to another level. Instead of just for example, like a food recipe, instead of just like a list, make it somehow into a video, okay? Or share something completely different, like share something personal. There's a huge thing with people that they're either really heavy on the art and has to look good, or they're really heavy on the data, and it has to pander only to that. That's why we have the 70-30 rule. Data and art isn't something that's really meant to be separate. It's not something that's meant to be put together to give you guidance and to help make your social platforms and your messaging better. All right, so next up is review relevant influencers and competitors for two specific reasons. One is so you can get some inspiration from them. I think success does leave clues, so there's no need to reinvent the wheel. You just gotta see what's working for a lot of these people. You take 10, 20, or just even 5 influencers that you like, related in your space, see what they're doing, kind of take that into almost like a buffet and see what kind of content is really working, and then take that and implement it for yourself. Now, here's the next thing. And why you should also research is so you can find a way to differentiate yourself from others. Because one of our clients, they're in the financial industry, and we did a lot of research on their competitors, and we did exactly that. We looked for inspiration, what type of content we should post, what kind of content their audience is working. We kind of took that idea, but we also looked for what makes everyone look the same, and how can we make this client look different. It's the same thing for you. In your search for looking for inspiration and ideas, you should also look for what's going to make you different. It's one thing to take the content and ideas to make it better. It's another level to be different, so you stand out from the pack. That's one of the things that a lot of people say, but I think can be a little tough to execute, in my honest opinion. All right, so the next up is plan of attack. So this is going to be determined by your goal, your audience, and you should have your social media platforms picked. You should already determine how many times you want to post and what days and what times. Okay, how often are you going to be doing calls to action? Is it going to be every 9th post on Instagram? Is it going to be every 3rd post on Twitter? And be intentional with the content that you share. Keep in mind the type of content you want to be sharing that brings awareness to your goal. So don't just post without intent. And not just that, you should have an inkling or a slight idea of how you can stand out from your competitors. You don't have to have like a grand plan, but you should have just at least an inkling of how you can stand out, because from there you can just start executing and then expand on it. And if it doesn't work, try something else. Other things to consider: are you planning on running ads? If so, what's your strategy? Are you going to be using Facebook ads? Are you going to be using Instagram ads, YouTube ads? There's a lot of things to consider when it comes to putting together your ads. So other things is, how many times a week will you be engaging with your audience via actually replying, using the engagement strategy that we shared with you? Because it's very easy to get caught up with sharing the media. I think it's also important to plan out on when you get to be social. The last one is, how do you guys plan on dealing with trolls? I know the common advice is that you don't feed the trolls, leave them alone and all that stuff, but you'd be surprised some people actually reply to these trolls and somehow convert them into super fans, or they call these trolls out and then they end up just being quiet. Either way, trolls are people who aren't doing anything better with themselves, because they have resorted to actually trying to hurt other people. That's something to consider. Like when you get hate comments or people that are just saying just mean things to you, it's just one of the things that you have to be aware of. People are going to say mean things, and you have to process. Like, this is mainly for yourself as an individual or as a business. How are you planning on processing this if you're a sensitive person, to get some thicker skin and handle it? Are you gonna just block it, delete it, or are you gonna actually respond to it? So that's just something to consider. And then what happens after is really important as well. Or do you talk about it with someone else? Because I've had some vicious attacks on me that I've had to block. It happened on my vlog, and people say, and that's one thing where I draw the line, where when people start saying mean things on, I don't mind about myself, but if they talk about mean things about my family, that's that hurts. So, and then that one actually took me a couple of days, I think, to process and get over. So that's something for you to be aware of and to take into consideration when you start putting yourself out there. All right, so if you guys want to create dope social media strategies, we've actually created a template that you guys can use. It's something that I created from my social media manager, so they can just focus on filling in the blanks instead of just trying to figure out what to do. And I think creating templates like this make it so much easier. And it's like, again, finding ways, it goes back to finding ways to simplify the process so you can just execute. So it's the same thing for you guys that I want you guys to experience. Like, though these are a lot of things that you have to know, that you need to know when creating a strategy, the template does a lot of that, and you essentially just have to fill in the blanks. All right, so if that sounds dope to you, just click the link in the description and it should take you right to it. I just elbowed my light. So anyways, if you guys liked this video, make sure you hit like, subscribe, share this with friends who you think might benefit from it. Make sure you also hit the bell button so you guys are getting notifications of when new videos like this are coming out. Other than that, thanks for watching Vision Paradox TV. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.